For August to order, please. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Bear.
Present.
Commissioner Walsh.
Present.
Commissioner Kennedy. Commissioner Duckham. Commissioner Pileski. Commissioner Willis. Commissioner Williams.
Present.
Commissioner Snell.
Here.
Chair Shotwell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. We've arrived at public comment. Guidelines: each individual shall state their name and have 3 minutes to address the board. You may only address the board once under public comment. You may not yield your time to others. Board members will not debate nor answer questions at this time. Any public comment? Any public comment? Public comment is now closed. Entertain a motion for approval of the minutes from the February 4th, 2025 meeting.
So moved.
Support.
I have a motion and support. Any questions to the minutes? Seeing nor hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, duly carried. Audit presentation 2024, Cody Mitchell, CPA.
Good morning. We're here to talk about our audit of the year-end December 31st, 2024. My name's Cody Mitchell. I'm the audit manager on the job. Good.
I'm Hannah Beddinghouse. I'm the audit staff on the job.
This is our first year on the audit, so we're happy to be here to discuss the presentation with you and kind of give you a little bit of a layout of what we went through with the audit. So on the first slide here, what we have is we've kind of summarized a few of the reports. So these are the reports that we issue out and has our firm's signature on it and everything. So to begin with, we issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. This is also referred to as a clean audit. And this is really what you want to strive for. This is the best scenario for the financial statement opinion. Before I go further on the other reports, there's a few items I wanted to point out in relation to the financial statements. So first off, you'll see later on in the presentation, we referred to the medical care facility a few times. They actually had separate auditors that we relied on. So while they're included in the financial statements, they have separate auditors. So if there's additional questions on medical care facility, those might be better directed to the medical care facility themselves. So we can just kind of present what we're seeing as patterns with them. Another thing that I wanted to point out is in the financial statements, there's always, adjustments that get made, full accrual adjustments to bring on pension stuff, fixed assets. So stuff that you look at every month, it might differ a little bit, but these are the audited numbers that we're looking at. So the second report that we have is the government auditing standards report. This is the standards that the county has to follow. And we noted no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal controls. And we also noted no matters of noncompliance during it's also called the Yellow Book audit. The third report is the Uniform Guidance Report. So this report comes on when you have a single audit, meaning you spent $750,000 or more in federal funding. So that's why, it's an additional piece of the audit where we look at some of the programs that you guys have for federal funds. So this year we looked at the WIC program over at the health department, and we also looked at the COVID funding. As that's getting spent down, that'll be audited probably every year until it's gone, just because it's been determined as a high-risk program for anyone receiving those funds. Once again, you'll see that we noted no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies in internal controls, and we had no non-compliance noted as well. So overall, summary of reports, clean audit, no findings or anything like that. So yeah, it's really what you want to go for. On this next slide, we've also put together a few more bullet points as far as information that we want to communicate to the commissioners. The first one being that during this audit, we implemented Governmental Accounting Standard Board Standards 100 and 101. So what these are is every year, the GASB will introduce new standards that have to be brought into play when creating financial statements and kind of compiling this information. So GASB 100 is for accounting changes and error corrections. And what this did is it really just kind of brought everyone into a single presentation on how you present if there's an error, if there's an accounting change or a correction, things like that. Just so, all the different entities aren't presenting differently. They want to kind of have it more uniform. And then the second one, 101, is compensated absences. And what this is kind of put out a roadmap as far as how you recognize liabilities for vacation, sick leave, things like that. Just once again, making it more uniform for all the entities who are under GASB. You'll also see that during our audit, we noted no transactions with which lacked authoritative guidance. Anything that we needed, they were able to provide support on. There was no material audit adjustments that we made. And then we also had no disagreements with management and no difficulties in dealing with management. Really, everyone was super helpful. For anything we needed, they got back to us as soon as possible. Cecilia and her team were great. The people at the road commission were great. Especially with a first-year audit, there's a lot of learning and introducing yourself to each other and figuring out how you work best together. So I really feel like the first-year audit went really smooth, and everyone was super helpful. So on this next slide, what we're presenting is changes in assets and deferred outflows. So this is going to kind of be year compared to year. So since this is our first year of the audit, this is kind of what we were looking at during the audit. Later on, there will be some charts where we're presenting further back, and we've presented those just to kind of give you an idea of what the flow of everything's been. But for these first few slides, it's just going to look at year to year. And I just wanted to highlight a few of the large variances that you'll see. So the first one being capital assets. You'll notice that this increased by over $16 million. This is really just due to all the various projects that were completed during the year, started during the year. So the biggest being the Virgie project. That was a large chunk of that increase. But there was also other large HVAC programs that went on and also road projects that happened during the year. So all in all, that brought that increase on. The second variance that I wanted to look at was the deferred outflows. You'll see that decreased by $12 million. So what this is, it's a deferred outflow, or it's expenses that are going to be recognized over the future period. So kind of spreading some of the expenses out over the future related to the pension plan. So while this went down, what this really means is that there's less future costs left to recognize. You see a decrease, but it's really, not a bad thing. It just means there's less cost to be recognized in the future. On the next slide, we look at changes in liabilities and deferred inflows. And really the only thing that I wanted to point out on this slide was you'll see that there was a large decrease in the net pension and OPEB liability. And what this is really related to, it's related to the OPEB liability, has the larger portion of the decrease. And to kind of sum up what this means, it means that the county owes less in future retiree benefits compared to the prior year. Also that the real world experience was more favorable than the assumptions used in the previous year. So having liabilities and seeing them decrease, that's always a good thing. So that's on the right track. So you'll see that total liabilities and deferred inflows had a decrease, and then assets and deferred outflows had an increase, which on the next slide is going to show you that your net position, which is basically the difference of the assets and the liabilities and deferred outflows and inflows, had an increase in the net position. And this is one that I mentioned we wanted to kind of present looking back over the years. And you'll see that, for the last few years, there's been increases in this. So, that's always good to see having your net position increase. This is definitely something that you can look at as an indicator of financial health, as this is, like I said, the net of all those other numbers. So on this next slide, we just wanted to break out in the governmental activities the different buckets that make up your net position. So the largest bucket that you'll see here is the net investment in capital assets. So what this represents is it represents all of your capital assets, buildings, infrastructure, equipment, and that's going to be netted with depreciation. So recognizing those assets' usage over time, as well as any debt that was brought on to buy these assets or improve these assets. So you'll see that this is your largest bucket at over 200 million. And then the second bucket is the restricted bucket. So the restricted bucket just represents.
Sir,
oh, yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just a brief question. Just a brief question, and I, with respect to the net position, which we saw in the previous slide, had grown quite a bit.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I understand the nature of that growth, and I assume that is related to the Verigy project and/or increases in our investment in road infrastructure. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes.
So that's why it's increased so dramatically in the past couple of years. It's not like we're failing to spend tax dollars that we collect. It is that we are making investments in buildings and road infrastructure.
Yes.
That causes that increase, right?
Yep. Yep. And in a few slides, we'll also look at revenues exceeding expenses, and that also brings into play pension expenses, which can fluctuate year to year. So all and those things that you mentioned, and also those things is what's increasing.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yep. And yeah, please stop me if there's any other questions. Yeah, so the next bucket is our restricted net position. And what this is any funds that have a third-party restriction on them. So restricted grants, things of that nature. And it's it's smaller than net investments. This is pretty typical for what we see in our governmental entities. With the third bucket just kind of being the remainder to net all the numbers to what they need to be for the net position as the unrestricted. And you'll see that while that number is in the negative, if you remember back, like we mentioned, it's increasing year over year. And on the next slide, what we like to present as well is we like to present the net position if we strip off the pension and OPEB related items. So you'll see net investment in capital assets and restricted didn't change, nothing changed with those numbers, but your unrestricted is pretty much brought down to almost zero. That's just, you have these large liabilities related to pension and OPEB that can kind of swing the view of the unrestricted. So if we take those items away, you'll see that it's pretty much netted out to zero on the unrestricted. On the next slide, we also want to present the net position at year end of the business type. This is kind of where the medical care facility starts to come into play, as well as it's part of business type activities. And what you'll see is also almost similar to the time that the other area started increasing. This one's also been increasing year over year for the past few years. And from prior year, you'll see that there was an increase, and almost all business types saw a positive change in net position. So for the presentation on the financial statements, you would have your delinquent tax fund. So that had an increase, medical care facility had an increase, and then everything else gets grouped as other business type activities, and that also had an increase. So all those buckets experienced a net position increase year over year. Similar to the last chart like this, you have your three buckets: net investment and capital assets, restricted and unrestricted. So this one's dominated by this large restricted, and what this is that the medical care facility, they have a pension asset, and that when you have a pension asset, you have to restrict those funds, saying, these assets will be used for these pension payments and everything like that. So that's what that really big restriction is. As I mentioned before, we aren't the auditors for the medical care facility, but that I can say that they're the one with the restricted net position. And you'll see once again, unrestricted for this is pretty much at zero.
I have a question before you walk away from net position at year-end business type.
Yeah.
And you refer to the restricted being the medical care facilities pension fund. Do you have a graph of this separating the medical care facility from county general?
We do not. As we
Okay.
go in the slides, we separate out the general fund. There's a few slides strictly on general fund, and then one of the last slides will look at the different business types, which does have a separate line for medical care facility. But for the rest of the slides, we had combined it all, breaking it out between governmental and business type.
Okay, so on this slide, we just wanted to show the revenue and expenses over the past couple of years. So from this, we can see that revenues have stayed pretty consistent over the past 3 years, with expenses pretty much consistently increasing. The main increase from 2023 to 2024 was due to the pension and OPEB expenses that Cody had talked about earlier, but with revenues still exceeding expenditures, which is what we would want to see. So that's for the governmental activities. And then on this next slide is the business type activities, which, one slide back, sorry. Yep. So on here, we can kind of see the trends pretty similar of revenue staying pretty consistent with a slight increase from 23 to 24, and then the increase in expenses similar to the government type activities, which is also due to the pension expense, which is related to the medical care facility. So then here on this next slide is just the general fund, which is a government type activity. And this is the revenues and expenditures over the past couple years. So here we can see that the revenues and expenses have increased pretty much in line with each other, but with revenues still exceeding expenditures. And then on this slide, we just wanted to show the property tax revenue, since it's such a big part of the county revenue. So we can see over the last 10 years that the assessed value has increased pretty steadily, which has also led to the increase in property tax revenue, which is something we definitely want to see with it being such a big part of your guys' revenue. And then here on this slide is just the general fund balance at year end. So we can see how this has steadily increased over the past 5 years, which is in line with the slide that we talked about earlier with revenues exceeding expenditures. So this is good to continue to see this increase in the general fund balance. And then on this next slide, we just wanted to show you the ratio of the fund balance divided by the total general fund revenues. So for this ratio, you'll see that the numerator is the general fund balance at year end, and the denominator is the revenues of the general fund. So for this, we would like to see a higher ratios are more favorable, as a high ratio suggests the presence of resources that can be overcome by a temporary deficit. So we can see this ratio has increased the past couple of years, with it staying consistent from 23 to 24. But the county does exceed the recommended range from the GFOA of 15 to 20%, with the county being at 28%. And then here on this last slide, as Cody had mentioned, breaking out the business type enterprise funds. So this is showing the operating income or loss over the past 5 years. So we can see the delinquent tax revolving fund and the non-major enterprise funds have stayed pretty similar over the years. And then there was a big decrease in the medical care facility this year, going from income to a loss. And from what we can see, this is due to an increase in personnel expenses. But for further analysis, you may want to talk to the medical care facility auditors on this big change.
I might, Mr. Chair, with respect to the medical care facility, I realize you guys aren't the auditors there. But if I recall their situation, they had an overstatement of revenue in a prior year, which they're going to have to pay back, or I think they've accrued
Okay.
to pay back some revenue that they, if I'm wrong, Cecilia, I'm sure will tell me. But it seems to me that spike there with respect to 2023 is the result of the overstatement of revenue in that year.
Okay.
And the decline in 2024 is a result of having to accrue the payback.
Okay,
So just for commissioners' information, I believe that's the case, and I'm sure Cecilia will raise her hand or shake her head or something if I'm wrong.
and those are all the slides we have. So, any other questions?
If I may. Go ahead. Yeah, that last slide, delinquent tax revolving fund, that are foreclosures. It looks like it's almost zero there at end of 24. Is that correct? I thought it was like 2, 3 million.
So, I will say, I do think that it should be flatter. I think that on our slide, we left off, when we were typing the number in, we left a digit off. It's pretty much flat with last year.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I thought it was 2 or 3 million we have in there now.
Yeah, yep. So, yeah, I think that, just when we were typing in the numbers, we
Okay.
fat fingered one, but it would be more, it pretty much was flat with
Flat,
last
yeah, I
year.
believe
Yep,
that's correct. Thank you.
Yep, so.
Could you tell me which page and which report that reserve account is shown?
The delinquent tax revolving. Page 17, I believe. If not, you can let me know. Yeah, if you're referring to the reserve slide, that might be, if you're referring to slide 16, we talk about kind of the fund balance by the revenues. That's related to the general fund. I'm not sure if that's the one that you're referring to. Oh, so the numbers would be coming from the financial statements. So the like the 200-page document. If you're asking which of the financial statements it comes from. Oh, so are you asking? So you're asking within the financial statements, which like what pages these numbers can be found on? It's I'm not sure if you have it. It's the really big one. So probably that last one you put down, if that's like the 200-page one, you'll see in there. And I can send a lay. I don't have it off the top of my head. I can send a layout of where the pages are. But around page 20 or 30, it switches over to kind of different tables where it presents all of the financial information. And this is kind of where we're pulling all these numbers from. So it's a balance sheet, income statement for the entity-wide as well as the fund level and everything. I apologize. I just don't have it in front of me. I can send Cecilia kind of a table of contents if that would be helpful. Yeah.
In the single audit report, there's 2 lines that I'm curious about. On page 1, under the U.S. Department of Agriculture, COVID-19 commodities non-cash, $16. And then on page 3, under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, COVID workforce development, $61,219. To me, COVID's done. How long is this money going to keep coming in? And is it going to come in little increments of $16? That's hardly worth tracking.
Yeah, so, and Cecilia, I mean, if you want to jump in, but basically, these could have been grants that were received a few years ago and you've just been spending down on them. So anything that, when you receive the grant agreement, if they've designated the funds as coming from COVID funding, we have to include that COVID indicator at the beginning of the line. So, you know, year over year, we've seen decreases, and probably within the next few years, it'll all be wrapped up. And they're not releasing any additional COVID funding. So like I said, this could just be from older grants that you had. You could have gotten them 2 years ago and had a window to spend them down, which they're, you know, being spent down within the next few years. I know the ARPA funding, which is the big bucket, that has to be spent by the end of 26. So I'd say within the next few years, you'll see these COVID indicators drop off on the CFA.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Certainly, go ahead.
Apparently no other questions, but I would want to comment that kudos once again goes to the finance department. We had an outstanding audit, and to your company as well. No findings, everything's exceptional, and we're in a good position. Appreciate that, thank you.
Yes. Thank you for your time.
I'll ask one more along that same line. Usually there's, at the end of an audit, there's a management letter that says, just as Mike said, we had a great audit and everybody worked well together. And there are comments or suggestions by the auditors for things that they would like to see done better. And I didn't see any suggestions for anything to be done better. Did I miss it, or are we so very wonderful that we didn't need anything like that?
This year, I didn't believe that we had any management letter comments. So we didn't have that letter. If you don't have any comments like that, then yeah, no letter.
It's I think it's worthwhile remarking, because those are little gold mines for political types to say, what shall we do better? Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time today.
Yes.
If I may, just one more quick comment. I would comment for those who, like people like Earl, who understand the CAFR award. The county has received that every year consistently since 2011.
Who became chair that year?
Who became chair that year? Was it you, Steve?
Yeah.
Actually, that was the year I was hired too,
Coincidence?
I'll add.
We had it before that too, Mike, by the way.
I know, but we
little
don't have record
coincidental?
of that.
Okay. Any further commissioner questions? Hearing none. Budget update. Time to start again, Cecilia?
But this is a positive one. I have good news to bring. So yes, we're going to be talking about the 26 budget update for the general fund. Good news, it is balanced. So we just kind of want to go over the significant increases to the revenue and some increases to the expenditures. So significant increases to our budgeted revenue. We are projecting the property tax to have a 3% increase based on everything that I've researched and talked to different people. That's what we're projecting it to be. So that would be like an increase like a $918,000, which will bring our total budgeted property tax to $31.5 million. Our revenue sharing, based on the state's website and the governor's recommendation, there's a 3.4% increase of $161,650, which would bring the budgeted revenue sharing to $4.7 million. I checked the website yesterday just to verify. There hasn't been an update since February. So as far as I know right now, this is what I have. So on page 3, we kind of go over our salaries and wages and benefits. Again, this is the general fund. We're expecting wage increases, including the step increases, to be $589,000, which will give our total annual wages of $18.4 million. Benefits, we're expecting a 7.5% increase in our cost of healthcare for active and retirees. That would be $525,200, but the total increase is $671,200. And then our total health insurance and wellness annual cost would be $7.5 million. There is an increase in our defined benefit contributions of $747,000, but then the total defined benefit contribution increase is $955,000. Are there any questions on these increases?
I got a question. On that last item, increase for defined benefit, I just want to make sure I understand what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
Increase of 747,000, does that mean we're increasing to 955,000?
No, no, that's just the increase. So that's
So-
the general fund portion of that total increase of 955,000. Because I'm only talking about the general fund, but the total increase is 955,000.
So, all right, so the general fund portion of the $955,000 increase is 747,000.
Yes.
The difference between those two numbers is what other funds are going
Yes.
to bear of that increase, right?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. exactly.
Because up until now, we've been talking strictly general fund, right?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, any other questions? If not, we'll move on. So we do have a couple of departments that are going to be coming to committee next week requesting an FTE. Emergency dispatch will be requesting an assistant director position. Total wages and benefits come to $100,573. And then the medical examiners will be requesting a lead medical examiner investigator at $92,955. And then she's also going to be requesting a part-time pathology assistant at $42,360. One thing to note, 40% of those increases will be paid through the cost share with Lenawee and Hillsdale counties. Are there any questions on these?
Do we need the approval of Lenawee and Hillsdale counties also to do those?
No,
We're driving it. We decide and they
Yes.
pay.
yes,
Okay?
it's
Thank
my
you.
understanding.
That's a great way to have it go. All right.
Yeah, good agreement. All right.
Cecilia,
Yes,
and the total cost is the 92,955.
Yes.
That's not just our portion.
it's the total cost.
Thank you.
Okay. And then on our last slide is talking about budgeted amount for capital from the general fund. So the sheriff's department's replacing 4 vehicles. And the cost there would be $295,790. And then every year we do put money aside for the GIS. So that's $40,000 towards the next flight. And then information technology, we, $305,000 towards future technology replacements.
Cecilia, would you give them the schedule, talk what's coming next and
Sure.
when?
So it'll probably be tomorrow. I'll have Delane send out the draft budgets, which will have all the different funds with the revenues and expenditures on them, and also detail the general fund. Those will go out next week for you guys to review. Ask any questions on any particular line items you have. You can pull the support and we can talk about it. And then September study session, I'll present the full budget presentation. And that will be there'll also be the public meeting that we'll advertise, will be at that study session. And then September's board meeting, you guys will approve it. And we'll be done. Then we'll start over. And I'll have fall maybe to breathe. No, I'm kidding.
Cecilia, I just want to make sure I understand the capital spending, that's right up on the screen. So we're actually going to spend $296,000 on cars, but the $40,000 for the GIS and the $305 for information technology, we're not actually going to spend, we're just going to say, we're going to save up for the time when we're going to spend money on GIS and information technology. So when we see next year that we actually maybe do have a spend on either one of those,
Right.
it's not like we're spending twice. We kind of saved up for it in this budget, and we'll actually spend the money in some future budget.
Exactly, that's exactly what's been happening, yes. It's exactly what we do at JS, because we do the flight like every 4 years. I think we're doing a flight this year, so we have money there because we've been putting money away for it. The IT department, they do spend the money throughout the year on things that they need to replace, but there's money there because we have budgeted for it.
Okay? I just wanted to make sure I understood
Sure.
the methodology there. Thank you. Visiting Europe is a wonderful thing to do. I wouldn't budget for it in our county, no. You're saving up for it, I get it. That's, you don't do it but every few years, and you want to have the money set aside. Got it.
Additional question beyond what Earl was asking for. So these are, pull it closer. These budgets for the sheriff, GIS, and IT, the numbers you've shown here, they're going to be put into they're just going to be set aside and saved. They're not going to be spent in 26, 27?
The cars will be spent in '26. That's what we're budgeting for. GIS, we're doing a flight for this year, for '25. So the 40,000 will be set aside for, we'll continue to accumulate for the next 4 years. So it'll be set in a fund for that one. So that one, no, will not be spent in '26. And information technology, IT spends as they need it. So it's possible, depending on their needs. There will be money that will be spent in '26 for that.
I agree, it makes sense to save up for this because the cost of these is only getting
Very
more.
expensive,
So
yes.
how would I look up to see whether last year, this proposed budget, the year after that, where could I look up that, what has this savings account built up to?
Sure. I can run a report. It's in our capital fund, and I can run a report for you to show you that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have any questions, but I'm sure once we get more into the conversations on this in September, we all will have more questions on this. But I just want to just take a moment to thank you for your work. You've come to this meeting and other meetings always ready to go, ready to answer questions. You do your homework. You do a great job, and we are truly blessed to have you here at the county. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
We've arrived at the Verigy update.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have with me today Mr. Williams, fresh from Arizona, and he's going to help me with this presentation and hopefully fill in the gaps. There's a few things that he probably want to fill in over and above construction, but I will stick on topic with regards to our progress in construction. I've divided up into 4 segments. First segment is nearly complete. Second is about halfway, and then the last is we've got some challenges which I'll show you. And then lastly is just a bar graph that shows everything all in totality. First slide, and I've taken the liberty to just capture 3 pictures here. We've had success with putting in the geothermal fields at both locations, at the courthouse and also at Health Services Building. Image 1 shows the geothermal work fully complete with exception to the final hookups. You can see the land there in image 1 fully graded and ready to accept the county parking lot work that has to be done prior to us doing some additional work above ground, which is finishing up the solar and the EV charging stations. You know, the solar at this specific site is not only just solar, but it's also the canopies, parking canopies, which will have the solar on top of them. So there's some sequencing that has to occur, and it'll show up in my subsequent slides that show those not being completed. Image 2 and 3 show the work, fairly neat work that's been done at HSB. We've had some challenges with extending the geothermal field into the parking lot, adjacent parking lot, and we do show there some parking lot work, some paving. In fact, that paving is occurring this week still, and we're expected to get that completed and bring it into the building for final hookup. The HVAC, and I've indicated it in red, the HVAC at the courthouse and HSB to a certain extent is fully installed and complete. We just need to get, you know, the systems, the geothermal systems connected so we can energize them. If you go to the next slide, please. These I've indicated anywhere from 30 to 45% complete, and it's specifically this building, the tower building. We've had some challenges with there, and I'll talk about the. There was some unforeseen groundwater that became evident when we started to dig below the basement floor, and the city put a stop work for us because they wanted to investigate. In fact, they've actually indicated to the city, or the city indicated to the county that they have to bring on a professional engineer, structural engineer, to evaluate the complete structure of the facility to make sure it's sound. Me being a professional engineer, I believe, and again, this is just my opinion, we should be okay because this building is under caissons, probably down, 200-300 feet. However, there's conditions that have changed. Professional engineer, I believe, started yesterday. They're investigating, and they just need to verify that everything is safe and sound, and then the city's gonna approve us to continue forward. The work that I'm referring to specifically as it affects Verigy is just in the boiler room, which is directly below this room here in the basement. We're putting in a new sump, some floor drains and things like that. Not completely extensive, but it's the fact that there's some groundwater, and we wanted to make sure, or at least the city wanted to make sure that the ground or the foundation of this beautiful building is still sound. Is there any specific questions about that?
So I'll ask, I'm an accountant, so I'm not, this is really, the question is whether it's as a result of leaking supply pipes or the actual water table, since we're close to the river here. Is that right?
That's a very good question. There was initially, there was some investigation that was conducted in our presence, in Verigy's presence, with the city to just investigate the water and the content of that water. Originally, it was discovered that this water had chlorine in it, which would indicate that
Suggest
it's
supply pipes.
city water and supply pipes. And as further investigation went on, it was more groundwater. So it was a little bit of both. All this needs to be investigated. In fact, the actual chlorine water was discovered that the cities had a failing valve of some sort, and it was corrected immediately. But again, all this needs to be investigated. If there's any groundwater or whatever it may be, that needs to be looked at, and if intermediate solutions like additional sumps or anything like that needs to be put in place, the engineer will make those recommendations.
But you were just suggesting that the foundation rests on, it doesn't rest on the ground, it rests in like bedrock, doesn't it?
Yes,
Typically?
yes. And again, I'm a professional engineer in mechanical, but a building of this structure is more than likely put on not only on bedrock, but it's also put on caissons, which are pilings that go down.
Okay, yeah.
So
So,
with
I mean, it's not surprising to find groundwater this close to the river, it seems to me. And the building has stood for 100 and some odd years.
yes.
Is there any evidence of degradation of the foundation such that the building is, you haven't seen that, you just want to know where the water's coming from,
Right.
right?
Yes. Well, those are good questions. With regards to degradation, that's the reason why they're structural engineers. They're going to make an assessment, they're going to make an opinion, and then if there's any corrective actions needed, they'll make those recommendations.
Okay,
With regards to groundwater, like you say, if we're in an area that has it and it's something that maybe, let's just say, has increased over time, they will probably make recommendations to remediate that. Whether or not it's through, tile drain or sump pumps of some sort to make sure that the integrity of the foundation is maintained.
okay, good. All right, thank you. I've exhausted my knowledge of buildings. Thank you.
No, you're
I
welcome.
would just add that I was told that the tower itself is on casings and bedrock. It's sound. It's
Yes.
the back part here that doesn't go down to bedrock. So when they were talking about the water under the floor there, they said it was going under the foundation there and exiting, which kind of makes sense. It had to go somewhere, and then it had a cement cap on it. But nonetheless, that's really the part they're probably looking at. They'll look at the whole thing, but everyone tells me that the tower itself is not a concern. It'd be just the back part of the building. Darius, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, or Mr. Overton. How long is this going to possibly delay your work?
Well, it's delayed us up to this point roughly 4 weeks because we had to stop work in the boiler room area, which is really the heart of the system that we're putting in. But we're still continuing to work. As you see in image 2, we've started all the piping that goes up the tower building. We started to lay out the systems above this roof line for all the piping that's occurring. We put in all the other systems, and we will get back to the boiler area once we've got the green light to do that. We do have some workaround solutions, possibly just kind of segregate our area so we can continue to work, but we need to get the green light from the city.
Okay, thank you. And then also to remind me with the funding source for this, in the event that there is some additional work that's been needed, we've built into, and maybe this is more of a question for Mr. Overton, we've built into this some type of contingency or miscellaneous funds to kind of cover these costs?
Yeah, there's some contingency there.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Yeah, Mr. Williams, towards the end of my presentation, I'll ask, oh, sure, I'm sorry. If I could just finish answering your question, is that Dick Williams will talk about some of these contingency funds that are available that we're going to talk about a little bit, to address some unforeseen conditions. So, sure, you're welcome. Mr. Barron.
Ed, the initial conclusion, testing the water, you said you thought because it had chlorine in it, the assumption would be it was city water. The final conclusion was it's just groundwater. So how is chlorine getting into the groundwater?
Yeah, we had spoken about that. The city did discover some valving that they
They
addressed.
discovered what?
Some city water valving, some valves that they addressed with regards to the source of this chlorine or city water. I don't know the status with specifically and how they're addressing that, or they are going to address it, but it was identified by the city that was the source of the chlorine.
Well, if the city identified valves or any part of their water distribution system that was leaking, then the city water caused some of this undermining of the soils. So if we, at this point, just put in a sump pump to make sure we get the groundwater. I would suggest that we periodically test water in that sump pump to see if it has chlorine again. History has shown us that there was chlorine in, and it came from the city, and the city supposedly has fixed that. But to know in the future, if city water is getting into the ground table again, we need to periodically do some testing of that sump. That's my recommendation.
Yeah, it makes sense. If I was a city, I would probably maybe assert myself to access, the county and invite them, get the invitation to test that, because it's not only eroding the ground, but also, water is expensive for the city. That's lost water, lost revenue. And so from the standpoint of the city's perspective, they need to fix those things, not only to save them money, but also to help the infrastructure of the surrounding buildings.
All right, thank you, Ed.
Sure. If there's no other questions, I'm going to continue. Image 2 shows, this is, we show 4 pipes there, and I'm not exactly sure which floor this is, but essentially this occurs on every floor within the tower, and it goes all the way up. And all these pipes, 2 of them are hot water, which is hot water supply and return, and the other 2 are chill water supply and return, which will provide heating and cooling water for new air handlers for every floor. Specifically on this project, we're addressing 3 floors, and I believe we're doing Cecilia's floor now. But the master plan, as we originally designed, is that in time, as each individual floor starts to age and starts to fail, they'll literally just piggyback on these pipes, put a new air handler in, and you'll have a new system for every floor. It's a nice system. What these pipes aren't showing and will show as we progress is there's going to be insulation on them and proper valving and all kinds of pumps and things like that. But it gives you an indication of what is going to be happening at the tower building. Image 3, we had to relocate this generator. Was really pretty close to your exterior wall. We had to relocate it, push it outward, pour brand new foundation to make room for this the piping coming out of the boiler room, which is just on the other side of the wall there, below grade, and it'll traverse upward onto the 5th floor roof, which is here. But we had to make room for that by moving the generator to the side there. That's just wanted to show you there that just moving something isn't just a matter of moving something. We had to actually redo the foundation there and pour the concrete, the sidewalk, and make sure it's done properly. Lastly, image 4. This is the courthouse. We do show all the geothermal and the final grading already put in place. What I wanted to show to you is the actual canopy pillars. You see 4 or 5 of them there, ready to accept the parking lot canopies. The reason why we're not doing it now is because we have to wait for the heavy equipment for paving. We want to make sure that none of that is damaged or just make the paving project more difficult. We anticipate that paving to happen around September. So we'll have roughly 3.5 months to complete. Our goal is to have really the entire project, and this specifically, my point of concern here is to make sure that's complete by the end of the year. Any questions about that? Continue. Lastly, this is work less than 20%, and I brought this up at our my last update, which is very challenging to us. What we've done from Verigy's perspective, we've continued with engineering on the landfill and the wastewater filtration system we're putting in. We've actually already applied to Eagle for permitting, and we expect to get that approved this week, if not next week. But we're ready to construct. The only thing that's preventing us from constructing is that the conveyance of the ownership of that property has to be from the state to the county. And myself, House Representative Leitner, and Mr. Overton went to Lansing, and we presented the House Bill 4135. They passed it in May, end of May, and now it has to go to the Senate as a bill, and that's where it is now. So we're waiting patiently for that transfer to occur. I know that Mr. Overton had met Senator Schenck last Friday at her breakfast with the seniors at HSB. So we're trying to get the ball rolling there per se, and to persuade it to move forward. In the best case scenario is that we get approval in the time of August, and we anticipate to be complete at the landfill roughly August of 2026. It's going to take us a good 1 year. Hopefully it gets compressed, but we've got to get all the equipment in place. We've got to rebuild this structure at the landfill that was nearly destroyed through a tornado. So there's a lot of work needs to be done, but we can't actually start work until ownership changes over, which the permit allows us to work there. Any questions specifically about that?
This is what started all this, right?
Yes.
You and I were working on the Verigy project and
Yes.
solving a water problem.
Yeah, this piece of this is, me personally, is probably the most important piece of this project, even though the other parts of it is a lot of work that needs to happen, but the actual landfill and the legacy to try to remove that burden from the county is really that important. That's why this project started. So yes.
I also. And I'm not the Jim Shotwell that's on the stuff from the 80s, just so you know. Any further questions?
Now, lastly, this is my snapshot and bar graph of the project in totality. My update really brings us up in through July. As you can see, and I've indicated everything in green is 100%. We do have a few there that I've represented in my past slides in the 85, 95, 90% range, 30, but it's specifically an accounting of all the work that we've been doing there. The next 6 months, we anticipate to be complete, and typically the last push of a project is usually the most difficult. In October, we expect to have significant completion. You can see a lot more green that's occurring there, a lot more yellow it's getting there. And then in December, we anticipate, less the landfill to be fully complete and operational. I raised the flag on December 25th, being very critical, because what's important with completing construction in the end of December of this year, is that it allows the county to file for the IRA funding that was part of this project. Cecilia and Raymond Associates, they've already filed for, or they're anticipating filing for the work that was completed in 2024, and we should get it in 2025. And we're going to do the same thing in 2026, file for the work that's been completed in 2025. Any questions specifically about that?
Have you heard anything more out of Washington in regard to that IRA funding and perhaps being in jeopardy?
Could you repeat that one more time?
Is the money in jeopardy? Have you heard anything out of Washington on that? Because I really haven't heard that it's
Sure.
in jeopardy.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this on to Dick. He has specific information about safe harboring. Some of the rules have been established by Washington, and he'll speak a little bit about some contingency dollars that we're using, or at least allowing the county to leverage to help offset some of these costs, additional costs. Okay, thanks.
Before Dick speaks, I would just add that we are doing everything we can to move forward with the transference of property. The state, we've sent letters, our attorneys have sent letters, we've been up there and talked to folks. It doesn't seem to be no one's against it, it's just everyone moves slow. And the House has approved it. We just need the Senate to take it up and approve it. And hopefully they will. They don't seem to have a sense of priority on it. And I get it. There's important stuff to done. As Earl said, the budget's not done. But nonetheless, it's significant to us and causing us impact, both financial and just in mental well-being. Thanks.
I would note, Mike, I think I just sent a message off to Senator Shink's office. If she can break the logjam in her caucus in the Senate and move this along, but I'm afraid right now it's tied up with all of the budget things and other personality issues or whatever else is going on in Lansing. Okay, that's a problem. I mean, that with good legislation, that does become tied up, regrettably, in those sorts of things.
Thanks, Mike. Dick Williams, it's good to be back before the board today. And to answer the question on the big, beautiful bill that was signed by President Trump, the way that works is as long as you had a contract signed before the end of 2025 and that you were in construction, you are safe harbored to what they call safe harbor to getting the IRA direct pay reimbursement. So the county has nothing to worry about. Those funds will be provided. You simply have to file for those once everything is energized and operating. So that's the good news. One thing I wanted to say is that I've learned in my lifetime that blessings come in disguise a lot of times. And, like some of the stuff that's been happening on this project kind of reminds me of when I was a young boy and I grew up here in Jackson. I was blessed to be able to play the greatest team sport of football. And I played from first grade all the way through the end of college. Through that time, I never won a championship, because back when I played, the only way Lumen Christi could win a state championship was if it was voted on. It wasn't a playoff. So the only way, because we didn't belong to a league, that you could win a championship was, if you got voted on. So when I got to college, I ended up going to Grand Valley State, and we literally, the year before I got there, they had lost every game for 3 consecutive seasons. And by the time my junior year came, and my senior year, we won back-to-back championships. And the amount of joy that I felt and the elation to finally win a championship and be involved with a team thing where we won a championship was unlike any other experience I've ever had in my life. And the reason why I say that is this project is kind of delayed. There's been some delays that have been not the county's fault and not our fault. It's just that we're depending on other people to, get things passed through. But as long as we stay patient and we are persevering, we will win a championship on this project. So I just wanted to draw that analogy that we're 100% committed to this. We're going to continue to do a good job, and this project is going to work very well for the county. And then lastly, I just want to give an update as it relates to some of the extra money. One of the blessings was, in my opinion, was actually if we wouldn't have had to dig the floor up to put the new drains in, we never would have found, you guys would have never known that there was water there. So that is a good thing, finding it out proactively rather than reactively. You're actually ahead of the thing there. So keep that in mind. The other thing is, while this money has sat in the escrow account because we haven't been able to move forward with the project and do certain things, it's actually earned more money while it's sitting in the escrow account. I was able to work with Mike Overton to get it extended so that you're still earning interest on that. Right now, you have over $2 million that's accrued in that account over and above what has to be paid out. Now, some of these costs are going to go up because time is, went on and stuff like that. But like if there's any remediation cost for that, to get at your question, Commissioner Williams, that money could be used, towards, some of that. So that's a blessing in disguise. So I just wanted to, let you know that, there is money that's been being earned in the escrow account. We're committed as a company to finish the project. We're going to stay patient. We're going to be persevering, and we're definitely going to make sure this project works for the county.
Thank you, Ed and Dick. Sorry.
Okay. We've arrived at the second time for public comment. Each individual will state their name and have 2 minutes to address the board. You may only address the board once under this public comment opportunity and may not yield your time to others. Board members will not debate nor answer questions at this time. Any public comment? Any public comment? Public comment is now closed. Entertain a motion in accordance with Michigan State MCL 15.268 to go a legal opinion to be discussed. We have a motion and support. Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Walls,
Yes.
Commissioner Kennedy. No. I'm sorry. Yep. Commissioner Williams. Yes. Commissioner Snell. Yes. Commissioner Bear.
Yes.
Commissioner Pilecki.
Yes.
Chair Shotwell.
Yes. Okay, we will adjourn
Motion passes.
to the second floor, to 5, to 6, to 7, wherever. motion, do we have support? Support. We have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Entertain a motion to concur with the recommendation of the attorney.
So moved. Support.
We have a motion and support. Questions to the motion? Please call the roll.
They got a motion.
Not yet.
Yeah, I sent it to Sierra. I had it too, though, right there.
Let's make sure we read it. Can we make sure?
Okay, we will hold till, detailed reading of the motion.
I'll just read you what the attorney wrote.
The motion to adopt legal counsel's recommendation regarding the settlement of Fox versus Saginaw County, case number 19-CV-11887, and to authorize either the chair or treasurer to execute the inter-cost sharing agreement and the class action settlement agreement.
Still good with all of those words be
Still-
in the minutes?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Snell and Williams.
Correct.
Commissioner Walls,
Yes.
Commissioner Pileski,
Yes.
Commissioner Willis,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Snell,
Yes.
Commissioner Shotwell,
Yes. Commissioner Beer.
Commissioner
Go
Bear.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Any commissioner comments? Seeing or hearing none, I want to thank everyone for staying for this study session and coming to this conclusion very, very much. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Duly